Welcome back to another beautiful day in the land of music. My name is Douglas, and in today's video, I'm going to be walking you through live mode on the Nord Stage 4. I'm going to give you some practical examples of how you can use live mode, how I use live mode in a church setting, and then we're going to talk about a couple of ways that we can either build sounds into our live mode or we can select sounds and save them to a live mode program as well. So before we get in and talk about kind of the nitty-gritty of live mode, I wanted to do just a quick level set on really what's the difference between live mode and a regular program. So in the Nord Stage 4, a program is a saved sound with all of the layers and splits and effects and all of that saved to a program. When you turn the Nord off and back on again, you can call up that program, and everything that you had for that program calls right up. Any changes you make to that program, you have to save to it, or you lose them when you move away and come back, or when you turn your Nord off and back on again. Now, in contrast, live mode is the same in terms of what it's saving: sounds, layers, splits, effects. But when you make a change to the sound, it's saving it instantly to that live program slot. So when you move away and you turn the Nord off and you come back to that live mode program, it's exactly the way you left it. Now, there's pros and cons to this, and we'll talk about that as we get into some of the use cases here. But I wanted to level set. Programs, you make changes and you don't save them, you lose them if you move away and come back. Live mode, you make changes, they instantly save, so when you move away and come back, you're where you left off. So that being said, let's talk first about how do we even turn live mode on and what is it? What are the features around it? So live mode has this gray button right here, and you can tell it's off because the light is not lit up. We tap on that and our screen changes. Our light comes on and it says live 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 live programs that we can use right here. And then if we turn live mode off, then we come back to our regular programs. You can say G11. This is one of the programs from my worship sound pack. And then we can go back into live mode. And again, we can tell we're in live mode on 2 things. One, it says live up here, and then the light is lit up here. So again, live mode, we have 8 live programs. Any changes we make are saved instantly to that program slot. So when we leave and come back, it goes back to the way we left it. So let me show you how this works. Let's go over to live program 3, which is my B3 here. Let's use the Leslie effect, or the rotary speaker, to show how this changes. So right now I have the rotary speaker on fast. If I move away, come back to my organ, it's still on fast. Let's go ahead and change that to slow. Go over to our piano. Come back to our organ. We're still on slow. So what it did is it instantly saved. So one pro to this is that as I'm making changes, I don't have to think about saving that before I move away and come back. The con to this is, let's say we're using a piano and a pad. So let's come back to my live 1 program here. I've got a piano and a pad. Let's say I am in the song and I'm coming to the end. So I'm swelling that synth pad in. I come over to my next sound here. I have to remember that when I left the piano and the pad sound, I had the volume of the pad almost all the way up. So let's say I'm going into now the 3rd song, and I'm going to start this out with straight piano. Now, if I just come back here and I started playing this, it's got the pad in there. So I have to remember mentally to pull back that pad before I start my strictly raw piano. So that's, I guess, if you want to call it a con of live mode, is if I'm in a live situation and I'm moving between my live programs and I'm reusing those programs for other songs, I have to keep in mind that where I leave it in one song, I'm going to come back to it. It's going to be at that exact same spot. A lot of times this works out well if you've got a piano and a synth pad and you're playing, you get to the end of the song, you start to fade that out. Someone comes in, does a guitar intro or whatever, and then I'm starting the next song after that with just the piano and bringing the pad in. It works well because where I left it was off, now I'm bringing it in. Compared to if I had a program that maybe the pad was at 50% saved to that program. Every time I call that program up, I'm gonna be at 50%. I'm gonna have to remember to adjust. So where I started to use live mode on the Nord Stage 3 is that was kind of my bread and butter. I lived in live mode for our Sunday sessions, and I would end up over time, and that's really kind of the genesis of my first program pack for the Nord Stage 3, is I had on the Nord Stage 3, it was just 5 live programs. I had my 5 most commonly used sounds at church, and I was constantly kind of tweaking, and as I was playing with the band, kind of making changes to those effects and the EQ and the sounds, and they all saved live. So I had, running live programs that were a couple years old where I was constantly making tweaks, and they were just kind of, I kept them there and I kept using them every Sunday. And so that's the one great thing with live mode is it gives you kind of an easy way to have some sounds right on deck that as you make changes, you don't have to worry about saving those because it's instantly saving that there. The other thing we have is seamless transitions, which we have with programs as well. So I can work through all of these. So as I switched between all 8 of those live programs, I didn't have any cuts and effects. I was able to move through them seamlessly, which is when you're playing live, especially maybe at church, where you don't want to have to completely cut a sound because you're trying to maintain kind of that background sound as a keyboardist at church. And so as you're moving through, it's nice to have my synth pad sound tailing off as I'm moving into the next live program and starting in with that next intro. My synth is slowly fading off in the background. So really nice. And one thing I wanted to mention is you'll notice that my live programs aren't really maybe set up in the way you would think for church. And so what I've been doing is I developed the worship sound pack for the Nord Stage 4, and I've been using programs a little bit more than I've been using live mode on the Nord Stage 4. It's just kind of, I started doing that and I have all of them lined up here in these 8 program slots that I can move through. And for me, I decided to try on the Nord Stage 4 to use programs instead of live mode, and it works fine for church. It's a little bit about what you get used to. On the Nord Stage 3, I lived by live mode. On the 4, I've done a little bit less of live mode and more just straight programs. And one of the big reasons behind that is, let's say I'm in live mode and I do my practice on Wednesday, youth group comes in on Friday, they start to make changes, they're playing around with the keyboard, they make changes, they come back, I come in on Sunday, my sound sounds nothing like I used on Wednesday because in live mode, it saved all of their changes that the youth group made using the keyboard. And so when you're using programs, all I need to do is call that program up again, and whatever was stored gets recalled and overwrites whatever may have been messed up by somebody else. So kind of a bit on your structure of your worship teams and who's using the keyboards. If you have multiple people using it, you may be better off using programs so that each person knows I can just call up, 1 is my piano and synth pad, 4 is just a straight synth pad, 2 is an organ, and 3 is an electric piano or something like that. But if you're the only keyboardist or you're trying to build sounds over time, live mode makes a really nice tool for setting up your 8 live programs, and then any changes you make over time are instantly saved. And then every so often, what I'll do is I'll take, let's say, this live mode program 1, I'll take that and store it to a program. And we can do this by tapping on store, and then it's saying store live to live 1. Well, we don't want to do that. So while store is blinking, we can undo live mode. It's still blinking, and now it says store live to, and we can go select ourselves an empty slot and then tap on store, and it's going to store that to a program slot, not the live slot. So it's a good way to make a copy of what you're doing in live mode. I do that quite often as I'm coming in, so I'm just going to exit this because I don't want to save it. But as I'm making changes, let's say come in, give it a little bit more treble, pull the bass back a little. So I've made those changes, they've saved, so if I move away and come back, they're right there. So once in a while, I'll make a backup of this by storing it over to a program slot. So if anything ever got messed up, I could always come back to my last saved version of that live mode. Lastly here, let's talk about, how do we get sounds into these live mode programs? So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna come over to, let's say, my slot 4, which right now is just a white grand with a little bit of a second piano with 100% reverb on it. Great. Let's say we want to switch that out with another sound. So one way we can do this is, let's say we want to take one of the programs from my worship pack and we want to put it into live mode slot 4. To do that, move out of live mode. Let's come over and select maybe the electric piano with the pad in it. Great, let's save that to live mode slot 4. To do this, we tap on store, and then we tap on live mode, and then we tap on live mode 4. Again, store is blinking, so this is all within the storing mechanism. We're storing now to live mode 4. So then we tap on store one more time, and now live 4 is this electric piano instead of the grand. I like it. So that's how we can take a program, save it into our live program slot. Now, let's say we wanted to maybe build a live mode set from scratch or use the preset library. Maybe we come over to this acoustic guitar. And we want to replace that with a synth from our preset library. So all we have to do is make sure you're on the live mode program that you want to make the change or build the sound on. And we're just going to go into our synth library and let's grab maybe the 80s_J3. I like it. So we're going to just exit out of that, and that picks that. So now we have this. Let's say we want to add a really nice soft piano to this, maybe an upright, something like that. We'll go again into our preset library. Let's come over to here. Maybe we do a bit of, see if we have a soft one here. Glowing Amber, let's do that one. We'll bring the volume of our synth layer down a little bit. And then over here in the filter, I'm gonna bring that filter frequency down. And I'm gonna change my timbre of my piano, and I'm gonna take this reverb here and bring that up just a little bit to maybe 4.5. And now we've built this nice little synth pad sound. I'm gonna bring the pad down a little bit. Built this nice little, not synth pad, but a soft pad with this kind of upright soft piano. Come in and turn our EQ on our piano. We brighten that up. Sounds really nice. And so there you go. That's kind of how you would build a sound. We could come in here, change whatever we want. Maybe we do a felt upright. Sounds pretty nice. So live mode 8, we took a couple of preset library presets and then we tweaked things a little bit more. And now we've built, rather than saving a pre-built program into this slot, kind of built one from scratch here. We could come over to, let's say 7, do a layer init to completely reset. We just tap on the all. We move away from that. Now we have this white grand. And we can do whatever we want. We could turn that off, come in, do an organ. Maybe we give it just a couple of drawbars here. And again, lots of different ways that you can build sounds. I won't get into that, but I hope that was helpful, giving you a little bit of a rundown on live mode, a couple of ways you could use that and some of the features behind that. And if you've got any questions about anything I've covered in today's video, throw those down in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. I think when it comes to, live mode versus programs, which one's better, it really depends on your situation and your preference. For me, I used live mode for years on the Nord Stage 3 and on the Nord Stage 4. I've kind of come away from that a little bit and have stuck with programs, but neither is bad, neither is wrong, and it comes down to what you get used to and what you're comfortable with. But hopefully this gives you the context and the information in order to make a decision on whether you want to use live mode or not. But it's worth giving it a try, see if you like it. I think it's really helpful if you're building sounds and things like that, and you don't have to remember to store them before you turn the keyboard off. If you're in live mode, it's saving all of that instantly for you. So again, hope this was helpful, but let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching, stay inspired, and keep making that music.